Wife cheated on me with a coworker and got pregnant. Up to this day, I can't believe on some of the things that happened and were said to me and about me. It's 2019 by the time I'm writing this, and everything happened during 2014. It was 2011 when me and my ex-wife, at the time girlfriend, decided to come to a different country temporarily, mostly to have an international experience, to learn languages, culture, etc. We spent part of 2011 and most of 2012 studying languages and working, until we had to go back to our home country due to a member of my family passing away. Was also at that time that we got married. But just on paper, we didn't have any parties or ceremonies since we didn't have any money to spare. Studying abroad is very expensive. During the time we spent back home, we took several steps towards building a couple's life or a family, such as refurbishing my old apartment, buying furniture. We even received several gifts from friends because they were so excited that we decided to stay. At least that's what I thought. Rebuilding the apartment was a saga by itself. In order to be able to provide, I created, from scratch, a real estate agency with my mom. We worked really hard and I was working a lot. What's a good thing? Because of that I was able to finish the apartment, bought the ex a car, bought myself a motorcycle. We had good friends and good people around us. Besides some minor things, I was living the life. On a note here that I almost forgot, her mom, my ex-mother-in-law, helped us with the apartment, as she was also excited for us. She paid for all the cabinets and for the paint job. This will be important later. It was mid-2013 when she starts to complain about our home country and our current life. I couldn't understand it. From my point of view, everything was great. We had a great life and a great future. But that wasn't enough for her. She wanted to go back to the country and city that we visited as student/temporary residents. At first I refused. I had a vision, a glimpse of the future. My business was doing great. We had our family and friends around. She wanted more. She wasn't satisfied with all that, even though she was also becoming very successful on her line of work. So she gave me an ultimatum: or we immigrate as a couple, or she would do it alone. Of course, I gave up on everything I had, packed my stuff, and immigrated with her. Of course, it's not that simple to immigrate. Her and I were both law bachelors. Our diplomas weren't accepted for immigration. So one of us had to come as a student and the other one as a worker. So we made an arrangement. I took all the money I had and paid for the travel and first semester costs. As for first expenses, furniture, etc., she transferred her car to her mom's name, so she could sell it and send us the money to pay for the school. She would work and I would study full-time. She was doing exactly what I did for her while we were back at our home country. I was working and covering most of the expenses, and she was training and studying. But this time, I was studying, she was covering most of the expenses, but I was also helping, as I rented my apartment and still had some revenue from the agency. One of the first things we did after arriving was to find a place to live, put some furniture in, and open a joint bank account. I'd like to take the time to also explain that I wasn't just naive. I was also very, very young at that time. She was just half a year older than me. We found an apartment almost immediately, as we had friends living in the same building. We became door-to-door neighbors. It was great. Our friends were also a couple, and from the same country that we were from, so, naturally, we spent a lot of time together. The first 2 or 3 months were nice. I was studying, she was working. I was enjoying my studies. We were already talking about the future, such as the next steps on the immigration process, about the next steps in our life, as having kids and such. I was adamant about having kids only after the whole immigration process was done, as we would be able to afford it, and our future in this country was uncertain, she agreed. During that time, we would throw some LAN parties, as we were both gamers. I'd cook, we'd drink and play games. It was great. Most of our friends were gamers too, as we both used to work on a game testing company back in 2012, and she was still working on the industry. She invited a couple of co-workers for one of those parties. They seemed to be nice people. I even gave one of my winter jackets to one of her friends that we'll call Bob. Winter here is pretty intense, and Bob didn't have any winter clothes, so I gave him a spare jacket I had. From time to time, We would go out with her coworkers, all couples, except for Bob. I was never comfortable near him. I never liked him, but I would tolerate him as he was part of her group of friends. She would always complain about stuff he did or said. At this point, I started to see the signs. I started to become depressive, as the distance between us grows bigger each day. I tried to fight for our marriage, but it seems that she didn't care. The only thing that I could think of was all the bits, pieces, and situations we had to endure to get where we were. I thought about our families, our friends, all the gifts and wishes that we received, all the good deeds from people that helped us. Would she throw this all away? My depressions grow bigger. I become super focused on my studies and on my crafts. I'm most of the time alone, as my thoughts eat me alive. I tried everything at this point, and I'm becoming exhausted. One day she comes home after work and goes for a walk with our neighbor's wife. I knew what was coming. She broke up with me when she got back. I was never a guy that would easily cry, but I cried like a baby that day. When I was a bit calmer, I called my parents. That made me cry even more, because I missed them so much. I went to bed crying, couldn't sleep, and ended up crying during the whole night. Next morning, I had a panic attack during a class. I thought that was having a heart attack. I couldn't breathe, my vision was blurry, I could barely walk. I went to the infirmary and there wasn't anyone there. I really thought that I would die that day. I lay down on a couch there and passed out. I woke up to the nurse assessing me, and I got the assurance that I was physically fine. I went home that day and stayed there, typed the divorce documents, signed it, and just stayed there, doing nothing, just thinking. That day was the very last time I saw my ex. A few days passed by, maybe 3 or 4, and I woke up to a weird dream I had. During the dream, my neighbor's wife was telling me that my ex was expecting a baby girl. I had another panic attack. During that same day, I found that she was already official with Bob. A friend in common texted me the details, since they both deleted and blocked me from social media. She never admitted on cheating on me to anyone, but she was already pregnant at that time, and it wasn't mine. That same day, I got a call from the bank, saying that my ex signed the papers to close the account, and that I needed to go there to sign it too. The bank account was empty. She even had the audacity of texting me asking for money for the rent and utilities. Besides the $60 I had in my wallet, that was all the money I had left. I was livid and desperate. I didn't know what to do. Luckily, my parents were able to send me a couple $100. That was what I used to move out. I offered her to buy me out of the apartment, meaning that she would buy my half of the furniture. She got offended. We never talked again, as I was livid, changed my phone number, deleted and blocked all means of communication, was able to move out to the worst place I've ever lived in, with all the furniture using the money that my parents sent, but I have to admit, I was eating just once a day because I didn't have the money to do anything else, and the way too ashamed of my naivety and situation to ask for more help. During that month, I noticed that the number of friends I had on my social media was decreasing. I asked around, and found out that for each group of friends that we had in common, she told a different story and a different lie, all to her favor, of course. They went from he's impotent to I was afraid that he was going to kill me. I understood that I was trying to justify what she did to me to keep her friends and to justify the cheating. Of course it pissed me off, but what really got me flabbergasted is that some people actually believed her. People that I once considered family believed that I was capable of doing such things. It really broke my heart again. Some of our friends in common didn't buy her lies and texted me saying that it's clear what happened and that I wasn't capable of the barbarities that she was telling everyone. I was livid. I think I was never that angry before or after in my life, but at the end, I did nothing about it. I came to the conclusion that the people that believed her without talking to me were never really my friends, regardless my feeling or considerations towards them. I also had bigger problems in my hands. How was I supposed to pay for my studies? No time to pay up, the school was coming, and I had no idea what to do. Nonetheless, my ex-mother-in-law texted me, asking me to pay her up for the cabinets and paint job that she paid for my apartment. Basically asking to pay back for a gift, but fine, let's do it. I explained to her what was going on with me, all the details, the slander, how her daughter and I had an agreement. that I was only in this situation because of what she did to me, how she did it, that she got all my money, and that, after hearing that, if she still wants to be paid, that I would find a way to pay her back, even if it takes my whole life to do it. The only answer I got was, oh, never mind that then. I loved my ex-mother-in-law as a true member of my family, and I still only have positive feelings towards her. I remember like it was yesterday the day that a miracle happened in my life. I was actually in a calculus class, trying to figure out how to pay the school, calculating what I could and couldn't do when I received a message from my sister. A company that owed me money finally paid up. I had no hope whatsoever on collecting that money. They paid up the exact amount that I needed. It was during my most financially desperate time that they decided to pay. I can only consider this a miracle. What are the odds? I hope none of you ever experienced this amount of frustration, desperation, and anger that I felt ever in your lives, and I mean it. I decided to go out that weekend to celebrate with a couple of friends, where I could tell them the whole story of what happened until that point. It was an interesting experience. As I was telling them, the whole bar started to listen to my story. I'd never had free drinks from strangers before. That was the very first and last time. I noticed that a couple of friends were really uncomfortable. One was drinking like there's no tomorrow. I asked what was going on. Then my neighbor's wife says, "I'd like to tell you something, but I promised not to tell." It was the exact situation that I dreamed. My body becomes cold, and I say, "I think I know what you're talking about." I continue, "She's pregnant, and it's a girl." "How do you know?" she asks. "I had a dream where I dreamed with this very moment," I explained. Everyone was surprised, of course. My friend that was drinking like there's not tomorrow sighs in relief. At least I didn't have to break my word. He told me that he was drinking like that because he wanted to tell me but didn't know how from then on. The only thing I know is that X and Bob moved to his home country, and they were living with his parents. She didn't speak the language, but I guess she learned it by now. She indeed had a baby girl, and I know nothing more about that. I had several hardships over the past few years, but ended up graduating on the winter semester of 2016 as one of the best students of that class, and I was invited to be the salutatorian, what I accepted. I got a couple of jobs after school, but ended up working on the gaming industry again, where I was just promoted. I'm still waiting on my immigration process, that hopefully will be done on the 5th semester of 2020. My story continues. I lick my wounds and have a bunch of scars, but I'll keep going, keep fighting for the bright future I know I can have. I'm much more mature now. I know who I can trust, and I know that I owe so much to my friends and family for the support they gave me. I hope you can take inspiration from this piece of my story to keep fighting and persevering as I did. P.S. I'll edit this post if I remember anything else. Please feel free to ask me anything. I'll answer to the best of my ability/memory. Edit 1. Today, I remembered that Bob texted me right after I found out about the cheating. He said that I should have taken better care of my ex. The audacity of some people.